Well, hey everybody, welcome back to Cavalier Insider. I'm Whitey Reed, joined by the great Jerry Hootie Ratcliffe. Today we're going to have part two of our preseason basketball preview series. And Hoots, you just got back from Charlotte for ACC Media Day. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go for the first time in my 9 years on the beat due to some other obligations. But
changing diapers.
Exactly. Trust me, I would have rather have been in Charlotte. But tell the viewers out there what you were telling me a little bit off camera about the new additions of Pitt and Syracuse and Notre Dame, and just kind of the odd feeling of being at a media day with these new members of the league.
Yeah, it was really different. Just very strange sitting across the table from Jim Boeheim and asking him a question, and talking to Jamie Dixon and to Mike Bray, and it was just odd talking to those players who used to be Big East guys, and now they're trying to become full members or be fully acclimated into the ACC. I think everybody just had a kind of a strange sense of things with all that going on. But it was fun, though. I mean, all three coaches were very candid, and we wondered if Boeheim would like being in the ACC after all these years in the Big East, kind of helping make the Big East what it was. And actually, he said he was glad to be in the ACC because he had kind of had a distaste for what the Big East had become with all the changes in membership from year to year. And had they stayed in, they would be playing games on the West Coast against teams that had no business being in the Big East. So he said he was kind of excited about a fresh start in a new league, and everybody who was there was talking about how this is probably the most powerful basketball league in the history of college basketball. So it should be a really fun and interesting year, Whitey.
Yeah, Boeheim should be fun. I mean, it's been a while since we had a guy like him really in the league who just speaks his mind. And I saw a quote from him that said something like how he had found a restaurant in Charlotte, and he joked that if you can find a restaurant in Clemson, South Carolina, you can find a restaurant anywhere, I think was his quote about that. But Virginia, let's turn to them. Joe Harris, obviously named preseason first team All-ACC, and Virginia was picked fourth to finish fourth by the media down there. Let's put you on the spot, Hoots. I didn't vote this year. How did you kind of vote for that stuff?
I actually voted Virginia third. I voted Duke, Syracuse, Virginia, and North Carolina. After that, I'm not quite sure of the order because there's 15 teams now. It's hard to keep up with all those. But I think Virginia's going to be pretty good, assuming they stay healthy. And we know that for the last several years they've had health issues every season. But I think this is the deepest team in Virginia history that I can recall. And I think it's good for Joe Harris that he's got all these other people around him, because there won't be as much burden on him to have to score 20 or 25 or 30 points to win every game. So, I think he probably is feeling a little less pressure, which might end up making him even better and more effective.
I totally agree, and I said it yesterday on Twitter, and I'll say it again right here on the preview show, Hoots. If I was in Charlotte, I would have picked UVA to finish first, because I just feel that, like you said, that depth is going to be so huge. In years past, they've had these injuries to key guys here and there, and then they just stumble. They don't have anybody to pick up the slack this year. The talent, the depth, and the experience, I think, is so good that I would have picked them to finish first. Now, switching gears a little bit, last week we talked, Hoots, about the guard situation, that battle at point guard, to see who the starter was going to be, how Tony Bennett was going to allocate the minutes. Let's shift gears to the front court a little bit here. Virginia's got a bunch of guys competing for those big man spots. You got Akil Mitchell and Mike Tobey looking like probably your starters, with Anthony Gill and Darion Atkins competing there too, and then Evan Nolte. So really, that's 5 guys, and you'd think there's probably only 4 spots unless Coach Tony Bennett maybe moves Nolte, plays him some as a stretch for, depending on on matchups, of course. But how do you kind of see all those guys and how Bennett might utilize them?
I think you're right as far as Tobey and Akil having the 2 starting jobs, and then the other guys will, depending on the matchups, the teams are matching up. They might want to go big against some teams, but Akil is probably the best rebounder in the league, at least from the ACC teams, the original ACC teams. I don't know about how he stacks up against some of the new guys, but he's a senior. He's been around. He's a pretty physical guy. He's very athletic. I think he's going to have his best year to date, and I'm really anxious to see what Mike Tobey's going to do coming back from those World Games, under-19 World Games, which they won the gold medal. And
just competing against those guys like Okafor and Jarnell Stokes and all those studs
yeah.
who were at that. How much better did he get from just practicing against teammates, let alone the other countries?
Yeah, I think just practicing against those guys did him more good than playing in the games. And I think he's going to be a much more physical, more aggressive guy, and that's exactly what they need, particularly with these new Big East teams in the league, because they're known for physical play. So I think for Virginia to be able to stay in the upper echelon, they're going to have to be a very physical basketball team.
And then Gill, the transfer from South Carolina, is going to be an interesting thing to watch. Last year, most people, while he was sitting out the year due to transfer rules, said he was one of the best players on the team last year, oftentimes dominating in practice. So that's going to be interesting to see how he fits into the scheme. And Darion Atkins, fans kind of tend to forget that prior to that mysterious shin injury that he had last year, he had really shown some positive signs. That Wisconsin game in the ACC Big Ten Challenge comes to mind, where he, Bo Ryan, the Wisconsin coach, said after that game, Atkins was one of the main reasons UVA won that game. He was rebounding, he was blocking shots. And from people I've talked to so far this year, Hoots, they say Darion's shin is feeling great, and in practice he has been swatting shots right and left. And hey, I mean, if you can swat shots like that, that really gives the pack line such an added dimension when you can, you have a shot blocker like that.
Yeah, he could be set for a breakout year if he gets enough playing time. And that's what one thing I asked Tony about yesterday was, you got all this depth, and he was talking about how playing time is something that they're going to be battling for in practice every day. So the one practice we were able to see last week, it was very intense. Not that we get to see a lot of Virginia practices, but the players said that it's been more intense this year than ever before, and a lot more physical. So, even a guy like Gill, who's a little rusty, Tony was saying yesterday, has been nasty from what we've been told in practices. So it's going to be really interesting to see how those four guys.
And Nolte, too.
Who
I'll have a feature, by the way, in Sunday's paper. I mean, he gives them, if you look at the shooters on the team, Jesperson and Barnett are gone. Jesperson, is streaky and say what you want about him. But losing two of your better three-point shooters, I think the onus is really going to be on Nolte to pick up some of that three-point shooting slack this year.
Yeah, I mean, they've been a team that mostly could kill you from the perimeter the last few years. They might have to kill you from the inside now, and they're kind of a light three-point shooting team, really, if you stop and think about it.
It's just Joe and Evan, who you would call pure shooters, and then after that, it's kind of a mixed bag there.
Exactly. So it might be an inside-out team where they go inside and try to beat you there first, and then worry about the jump shots.
Well, we're getting real close to the season opener, Hoots. It's November 8th at home versus James Madison, but we'll be back next week to talk about something else. I'm not sure what right now. But everybody out there, thanks for joining us. You can follow Hoots and I on Twitter, and we'll talk to you next week.